Hey, welcome to my podcast. I'm Manina, and you are listening to an episode of Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Today I have Tenee. She is a minister in the Harlem area director of Young Life program. She's going to explain what an area director is exactly. She's also my friend from childhood, like a long time. Yes. So I want to welcome you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. I am excited.
Yes. Thank you, Monina, for having me. Yes, we go back to sixth, seventh grade. Childhood friends. Have pictures of us when we were kids. We'll never expose those. But yes, we will keep those under locks. But I'm so grateful to be here. Yes, as Monina said, I am the area director for Harlem with Young Life. So Young Life is an organization that is international. It works in different communities to basically work with community, church, and schools to go and introduce youth to Christ, but also while doing that, they really come alongside youth in their development and encourage them along the way and look to be mentors and inspire them. So it's been something that I volunteered and I started doing, and when the position opened up in Harlem, I had to grab at it and had started the job in February and kind of have been making my way in my movement through this pandemic.
Oh, that pandemic. That's crazy. February and then pandemic. Boom.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, thankfully you were already volunteering, so you probably knew the ins and outs of the program anyway. So that's awesome. What got you into this area of your life? I know you have done extensive education. What started you into wanting to do that?
So I think what started me into the areas, because I have 3 different masters, one in nonprofit management, one in youth development, youth ministry, I should say, and one in my master's in divinity. And all of this, I have to say, started when we were kids, right? Like, we went to a Catholic school called Thea Bowman, and we had some of the dopest teachers that we could have ever met, and we were introduced to some of the greatest thinkers and inspirers of our time. We had people who had marched with Martin Luther King, and we were exposed to a lot of this, right? Like, I remember in school, we had Romare Bearden on the wall, and we had a teacher whose husband had went to Indonesia and exposed us, right? So, like, I got all of this exposure, and then going into high school and meeting mentors and having mentors who are still present in my life who continued that same vein. I knew that I wanted to be able to inspire kids, but knowing that I started in a Catholic school background where I realized I was loved by Christ, I wanted to be able to couple that experience for other kids. So it kind of just started like, okay, I'm just interested in education because education is cool, but then looking at my own personal story, realizing how important and significant Christ was also in that story, kind of led me to where I'm at now.
And that's cool because it's necessary, especially like you said, you're the Harlem area director. In Harlem, growing up in Harlem, we both know, born and raised, it can be tough. Now, it's a different generation right now. And I'm sure you can speak to the difference, because growing up, I felt like there was a different kind of code that we had to go by or that we dealt with. It was dangerous. I feel like there's something different. Can you speak to the difference in from what you remember when we were kids and what the kids now are facing? And what are the opportunities that they have that maybe we didn't have that you see for them?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that is different but holds the largest opportunity is technology. So like when we were growing up, we were just getting into technology. AOL was a thing. We were just getting computers. I remember we had the big computer lab when we were in middle school, and even like in high school, you know, having a computer lab in school was dope. And that was exciting, but how technology has drastically changed in the last 15 years alone has drastically changed the way our kids grew up. Like I remember we would be in school, you could possibly have a fight or be talking about a fight, right? And it would just be that. It would never really escalate into a full-blown on fight. Now you have kids who they'll walk around with videos of fights on their phones. It's a thing now to record that. You think about teasing, like, you know, I got teased really bad in middle school, and even in elementary school, and that's drastically changed. Like teasing and being able to go home and live that off and have conversation with your parents is no longer like that. Your teasing is happening in a consistent and constant basis on social media. And because our social media platforms are so different, right? Like you have Instagram, then you have Snapchat, and then you have Facebook. All of these platforms, though they serve and have some similarities, they're also very different. And then when you add TikTok in there, it's like, it gets way different. And the ability to even, as a parent, as an adult, to be able to regulate those conversations is difficult, right? Like, I remember growing up, if we had issue, we were talking about fighting, your parents quickly could get in, or your teachers could quickly get in, de-escalate those situations. You put up a Snapchat, that's, it's quick, it's instant. So it's an opportunity because it has provided our kids with the ability to be creative. Like, you think of memes, the video challenges. It's a place for them to be utterly creative, but it is also a place that can destroy their self-esteem and their self.
So let's talk a little bit about the cyberbullying. Do you guys have things in place? So you have this program, Young Life. Are there systems in place where you help them deal with this? Because it is true. I'm thinking about when I was younger, even in I got made fun of in grammar school and things like that because I was always a tomboy. So, and then on top of that, we dealt with in the early 90s, which is full circle right now, which is crazy, with light skin, dark skin. I dealt with that a lot growing up. You have lighter skin, you have a lot of hair. I had a lot of hair, and my mom used to just braid it in the same style all the time. So they used to call me doodle braids. Forget about it. When they found out my dad was African, I was African booty scratcher. You African booty scratcher with the doodle braids, you a boy. Like, oh man, I used to get it bad grammar school. But 5th grade, I always had the same temperament. So, I would be like, that's not nice. Don't make fun of me. Stop, that's not. And then 5th grade, one day I was like, I said, ain't no more. So I got into a bad fight, and my mother was like, okay, what we gonna do is go to a different school. Because this is bad. I had fought a boy too. On top of that, like, I had enough. But like you said, that wasn't on the internet. That was something that if I didn't tell anybody else when I went to a new school, nobody would have known. And then when I got to the new school, they weren't playing that. They were like, if you fight, you get kicked out. I don't know what to tell y'all. You think this is Harlem, you think y'all bad? Like, you're not going to go to school no more. You're getting kicked out. So that was something that the teachers used to regulate that. But yeah, that's kind of crazy, the cyber bullying. Like, what do you guys put in place now?
So I think it depends on the community and the culture that you kind of curate. Having worked at a high school and then worked at middle schools and now working in the space that I work in, it really is the community that you set up, right? And I know, like, for me, I'm going into different pockets and spaces and developing relationships. So for me, it's more about developing the self-esteem of the kid and creating a avenue where they can feel comfortable to come and have a conversation, and we can talk through how Christ sees them and how Christ, believes in them, and the beauty and the fearfulness that God has instilled in them. I do know, like, when I was at the high school, it was creating open conversation, right? Like, what are you doing, and why are you using this avenue this particular way? And some of it too is making sure that you're active and present on those social media platforms. You can't tell someone, you can't be serving our youth and you don't know how to use Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and you don't have an account, right? And you don't understand all of what goes into that and are active in that, right? Like, I'm not saying to go on there and police kids. I'm saying be an active participant in the culture. So when I was working at the high school, I would Snapchat every now and again, and I would engage my kids. It's the same thing with TikTok, with Instagram. Like, you have to want to be a part of their culture and consider ways to elevate their culture, right? So with all of these challenges, what challenge can you offer that would elevate the culture, that would make them think differently about who they are and present themselves differently about who they are? So those are some ways.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. It's like the thing that they're missing obviously is experience. They're young. They haven't been here before. I mean, some of them act like they've been here before, but they haven't been here in this lifetime before, and so they need to understand. I'm thinking I have a younger sister who is 17 years younger than me, and Snapchat was happening in the different little filters, and I would see sometimes a picture of one of our parents, like up on Snapchat with a crazy filter on it. Like, that's not funny. I want to let you know that you're invading their space, invading their privacy, and they would never have posted that up. That's not funny. Don't do that to anybody here, or you shouldn't be doing that to your friends. You shouldn't be doing that to your family. That's not okay. And this is why, that's hurtful. Or, they have a right to not be put up on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram with a nasty face on. That's they don't even want to be represented that way, So yeah, you have to teach them, I call it a code, but you do have to teach them respect. There's a respect you don't have when you don't have knowledge and you don't have understanding. You can't apply it to yourself because you just don't know, and it's not because they want to hurt you. They just having fun. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I see it. Sometimes
and it goes back to some of what you expressed too about the code, right? Like, so when we grew up, we had codes like, you don't do this, you don't do that. And some of those codes can still be applied in social media settings, right? Like, you don't talk about your friends behind their back. So taking slow stabs or, putting people on blast on social media, that's not cool, right? Like, how do you de-escalate some of these things? And I do think we miss the ability sometimes as adults to kind of do that. But also, I will say, some of it too is because as adults, we're doing it. Like, I can't miss the mark and say I haven't seen people who are adults my age and you're doing stuff and it's questionable even on your own social media. And no, I can't tell you because it is freedom of speech, but I do think the word talks about being prudent and being diligent about what we do. And in social media, it is like we have to be prudent. We have to be diligent about what we're putting out there. And is it really beneficial? Like, I always like to tell my kids, did you have a conversation with God about that before you posted it? Ain't nothing wrong with posting, but sometimes we post in a space that can't even help us.
And being in control of our words and our emotions is a very important part of being a upstanding individual in this world. You have to be intentional about what you do, even in your youth. I agree. I feel that if in your youth you learn to become intentional, there are so many things in life that you can just go ahead and curve around. You don't have to experience those things. You can still be there for your friends if they go through it. You can still understand those different things in life, but you do not have to experience them head on if you are taught to be intentional about your words, your actions, and how you handle your emotions and what you say to yourself. With self-talk, are there some self-talk things that you share with the youth and have them just, to repeat to themselves, things like that?
I don't know if I have my kids repeat anything, but I do try to create a therapeutic setting, if you will. I do sit and have them talk through what they're facing, why they're facing it, what are they thinking through, what is that about them, and kind of challenging them along those roads. And I think that that's important because a lot of times we have emotions and we have feelings and we don't know how to properly identify them, right? We don't know how to detach ourselves from them. I remember talking to one of my mentees. She came to visit me during Corona, and we were just talking through life stuff, right? And she was sharing with me some things and some issues that she was facing, and it was having a self-talk with her about, so you're feeling this, why are you feeling this? And if you feel this way, how are you responding? And I think it's a powerful thing, right? Like, to just be able to teach any person how to just be able to identify the emotion and then identify why you feel it, and then be able to say that you can realize that you have the power to either engage or disengage. Once you understand those things, why you feel it, and all of those things, once you do those things, you can then move, and you can be able to say, you can forgive yourself when you fall, right? It's kind of like, if I'm upset, my instant urge is I need a glass of ginger ale and I need a Sour Patch, right? Like, that's the thing that's going to diffuse the Tenee bomb. That's my thing. Okay. That's my thing. But in that, it's, what is it about for me to sit and say, you're angry, so you've identified the issue, but then what about that candy and that soda really solves the problem? And does it solve the anger, right? Because it doesn't. It just puts added weight to the hips that we don't need, but it doesn't solve the problem, right? And so it's to teach our kids that you can sit and be upset, but you going outside and you blasting someone on Facebook, is that really going to solve the problem? You going outside and ripping up and staying out till 2 a.m, is that really solving the fact that your mother pissed you off? No. So, like, let's revamp this. Let's consider these things and think through these things.
That's a whole different life for me, too, because at 2 o'clock in the morning, what? I'm sorry. Excuse me? Only time I was outside of my house in the middle of the night if I was sleeping on somebody's house, because the next day I was going with y'all to church. That's the reason why I was outside of my house in the middle of
It's a whole nother world with these kids. Like, and some of it really is, it's a level of freedom that we don't even understand and experience. Like, I think about the freedoms that we had and we didn't have, and then I think about the freedoms that my mom had and didn't have. And it's easy to judge and cast an eye, but some of it really is, it's the matriculation of how we've gotten here. And it's difficult to kind of pull away those things, but there are reasons. Like, you do want to give your kids the freedom to be, but it's also understanding that restriction is important too, because I don't want you to get burned.
Right, that's frightening to me. That is the ultimate, like, scary thing. I'm sure parents talk to you too about it. They're like, trying to balance it. I don't want them to feel like that was not a care in my father's head. He's like, what you mean? You don't want to be in the house. It's not what you want. Were you crazy? Outside for what? What's outside? Tell me. Put it on a list. Let me know. Like,
and some of it is honest conversation. And some of it is honest conversation, right? Like, I implore parents, I implore people who are guardians, who are aunts and uncles, have honest conversation with your kids, right? Like, I think that it is really, really poor as adults that we continue to tell kids, don't do this, don't do that, but don't tell them why. Right? Like, you're going to quickly tell a child, don't touch the stove because you will get burned. So it should be the same thing when we are instructing them not to do certain behaviors. Now, that does call for us as adults to really understand the why we tell kids not to do stuff.
Absolutely. Because I'm scared you're going to get hurt is not the answer. The truth is, I don't want the cops calling my house telling me they found you somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning. But the real truth is, I don't want you to do something that pierces the purity of your soul, and you cannot handle the repercussions of that. That's really the truth. Because that's really what our parents were saving us from. We did not know what was outside. They did. And really, that was what it was. It was things that we just were not going to be able to handle. It would take us 10, 20 years to unpack whatever that trauma would have been. That would have happened in one instance, you know? So with the opportunity of creativity, how do you feel like social media is helping the youth?
So I think it helps the youth because, especially in Rona, when you can't go outside, it did push you. Like some of the TikToks that I saw, and even me, you figure out ways to think outside the box, right? Like my whole graduation for my last master's was stripped from me, but I wanted to make it impactful. So it was just like, I'm gonna do this 4-minute TikTok video, right? So I put together all these little videos, and you see kids doing it. Like I've seen some of the most creative instances of kids thinking outside the box and challenging themselves. So it really does allow for you to think outside the box and be creative, and it gives you the space to just voice who you are, what you believe, and to back some things, right? So when you look at George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, I have seen some of my babies, my nieces and my nephews, some of the kids that I work with consistently use those platforms as ways to rally the cry, right? And it's beautiful, like every day asking, have we arrested the killers of Breonna Taylor, right? And that coming from a 14-year-old. Can't go outside, but every day I'm gonna post and ask you, did you do that? It's a beautiful thing to see used on social media platforms. So that part is really nice.
I want to slide over a little bit into what you do on social media, and that is you give messages. I want you to explain it more from your perspective, what exactly the messages are.
Okay, so I think a couple of days into Rona, legit, like this was like the 1st of March, I woke up and God dropped on me like, this is a word you should share. And so I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna share this thought for the day. And it blossomed into me starting this platform called Oil Cypher. And Oil stands for the one I love, right? So I love God. Like I'm like Erica Campbell, you know? I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? Like that's really how I feel. And in that, the platform really is me using it to expose who I love, but why I love him, and why he loves us. So every day, well, not every day, I was doing it like every day, and that gets to be a lot, right? When you're doing something on a platform and you're working full time and doing a lot of other stuff. Yes. So 3 days out of the week, I get up on the platform and I give at most a 10-minute thought for the day on something that I've probably wrestled with God personally about, something that God has dropped on my heart. Sometimes it's something that I've seen. So I did one on Nick Cannon. I did one on Issa Rae, on Insecure, about their whole friendship. And I base everything in scripture. So I just go in and really just pull apart what we see and what we experience in life, try to give an encouraging word to somebody, all based on scripture.
I like that. When I started my YouTube channel, it was to share my story of, it was to share my story of my loss of my twins in 2011. I started my YouTube channel in 2014, and I wanted to find out, because I felt like I wasn't led astray, but I was off the path, that I knew that I was raised to be on. So I was off the path, and I just wanted to know, what is a woman? What is a woman? Like, what? Because I lost my mom at 12. So, and that's a very important age. 13, 12, 13, 14 is a very important age culturally for a lot of African cultures, which we all derive from. Us black and brown people, we all derive from there. So it's innate in our DNA that around that time something changes for us, and we need guidance from our parent who is of the same sex, our same sex parent. So there are things that now as an adult that my father taught me and told me at that time, he just dug that in, because there's a different, he had a character and he has morals that are not quite American, and I really didn't understand them. They mean a lot now, and they carry me through a lot now. But when I was young, I didn't understand them. I just needed my mom, I felt. So I didn't feel like I grew up knowing what a woman was. So I kept searching and searching, and then I came to virtuous woman, right?
Yeah.
In Proverbs. And from there, I kept reading and reading and reading, and started working on a book, which I'm still working on so many years later. But I just kept reading the Bible. I just kept reading and reading and reading, and I would make videos. I have a good amount of videos where I was it's pretty much like, how you have on Oil Cypher, like, just, I have a scripture, and I would explain what it meant to me, how I understood it, my understanding of it, and how it pertained to life in general. So that's so important to me, that so many people look at religion in general as the connection, but the connection is the relationship with you and God, right? Mm-hmm. The connection, you have a one-on-one relationship with you and God, plain and simple, and how you practice that, it can look different. We all go to different types of churches. We go to synagogue, we go to mosque. How you practice that, it can look different. But applying the word, applying the good book to your life is, I feel like, the most essential thing to do. So what you're doing with the children, what you're doing with Oil Cypher, what you do with your everyday life, it's important to have that. It's important to have that, because that's where the guidance comes from. That's where who we are and what we're here for, where it all comes from.
Yeah.
So with that, do you feel like you're living your life's purpose?
Every day, I feel like I'm living it a little bit more. It has been a hard journey getting here, to getting to this place, right? Like, because I think life is very much like an onion, where it's layered, and instead of you trying to put on the layers, you're actually trying to take them off. And you have to be able to push into the suffering of what comes with taking off the layers, right? And that sounds really, really weird, but it's a part of life. Like, you have to be willing to sit and say, I'm going to allow myself to press in, and then allow for this thing to come off, to expose something that I didn't even know was in me. And I'm excited, because I know that as comfortable as I am where I'm at right now, there's so much more that's inside. There's so many more layers that will be unearthed the more I allow for myself to just yield into God and trust, and just let Him just like do the work.
And life is like that, and I hope that more of us, like, things that you're doing is amazing, because the youth is necessary to be an open, safe space for the youth to be able to recognize that, just like you said, life is about pressing in, and the more you press in, the more intentional you are about pressing in, the more you get to uncover about yourself, the more rich your life becomes. I have been working on things like harboring hurt. We all harbor hurt and harbor pain and things like that from our youth. And a lot of psychologists, or they'll tell you, you'll go and talk to a therapist, and they're like, so what was your childhood like? It's real. Harboring pain from your youth is real, and you'll be doing stuff as a 65-year-old woman, wondering why you don't like when people put the fork on the right side versus the left, and don't even remember because something happened in your youth that it was connected there. For me, I'm going to tell a small personal story, right? So when I was 3 but it's true, it's so funny, and it doesn't even mean to hurt you at the time, when it's happening. When I was 3, I loved Anita Baker, right? And my dad has this garb. It was white. We in New York, we have a section where there are predominantly Africans who have come from their country. So you know what they wear, like on 116. Yeah. So that's yeah, right. So he had an all white one with the gold in the front, with the embroidery gold in the front, right? And Anita Baker had the Rapture tour, and she wore this all white dress kind of thing, right? So I would take his thing and put it all around me so I could be like Anita Baker. And I knew the words. for the most part, you know, as much as a 3-year-old don't know the words. And I used to throw concert. Anybody would come, I'd be like, oh, sit down. I'm going to show you Anita Baker. And I don't know what let me see one day. Right? One day I just looked up and they were all laughing. And from that day, I never wanted to sing in front of anybody ever again. You know, I never wanted to perform in front of anybody. I never wanted to let anybody see my expression of the genuine me. Never. Mm-hmm. From that day, I was like, oh, embarrassment really, like, shut it down, you know? And even it took a lot for people to see different parts of me, like, oh, I didn't know you had a voice, or I didn't know you know, was funny. I didn't know these little things about you, because I'm no kidding. At 3, I shut it down. I was like, oh, y'all laughing? They weren't even laughing at me in that way. It was just so cute to them. Yeah. So my father was, you know, he's like, look, like she really know these words. Like, you know, it was cute to them. But to me, I was like, oh, they making fun of me. You know, so your youth, there's always something. And it's really a thing. It's really a thing where I have to be intentional about how I handle, how I receive people, and how I receive situations, especially new situations. Mm-hmm. Because of that, I know, you know, like, that's where it started.
And that's the important work of even what I do, because it is having those intentional conversations with youth. Like, we really don't know, I think, as parent, as community, the harm or the trauma that we can cause on our kids. And I think I want to say, like, I do think that we do and have and offer a misnomer when we say that trauma is like an urban atmosphere thing. It's not. Trauma, you can have a traumatic situation happen to you and it have nothing to do with the fact that you, quote unquote, saw someone get shot, or like, that is an intense level of trauma. But we do cause little traumatic situations to our kids that spirals into stuff, right? And it is something, even as an adult servicing children, I have to remind myself not to even visit my own trauma on children, right? Yeah. Like, I have to own my stuff and be clear about my stuff and not to do it to other kids. And so it is a lot of work, but it is some of the best and the most beautiful work to get to be able to do, because you get to play a part in the beauty that comes in tomorrow. So it's exciting. Right.
So one last thing before we go into our introvert corner segment, I just wanted you as a professional, right, who's dealing with children in a time of their life that those traumas are starting to really play a part in their life and will really take hold of their future, for sure. This is something, whatever trauma is leading their actions right now is something that they're going to have to work on for the rest of their life. So as a professional, I know somebody like me, I am about to be 36. I would have thought that I would have been married with kids 10 years ago. Okay. I don't know what's going on, God. Hello? God. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay? Because I've been reading the word. And I've been singing the songs.
Come on now.
I learned all the recipes I know how to cook. Okay? I wash the clothes and I clean the house. Right. And I love me, you know what I'm saying? I got good self-esteem. I can hand that down to the children, you know. But there are people who, you know, they're looking for that. They want children, they want a family. But I think it's important, as somebody who deals with these children every day, for maybe you to some encouraging words, not like, oh, you'll have children one day, but just the things that they really have to look forward to, and things that maybe 1 or 2 tips maybe that you might encounter that you can give a person who wants to have children, but they want to have a well-rounded relationship with their child, and a well-rounded individual that they put out into this world. What are 1 or 2 tips that you can give them starting off with how to be a parent. I guess I know there's probably a better term to use, but you know what I'm saying. Just 1 or 2 tips that'll give them some insight on, okay, I don't have it now, but when I have it, I want to be prepared. You know?
So the first thing that I would say, enjoy your season. Enjoy the season of not having children. And I'm trying to work on this myself. This is me preaching to the choir when I say this. Enjoy your season. There is a beauty in having to be able to get up when you want to wake up, to eat what you want to eat, having to not provide for anyone, to not have to buy Jordans for yourself and someone else, right? Like, enjoy your season and make sure that you are whole and you've experienced all of what you have desired and want to desire to create for yourself in your season of not having children. Because what happens for a lot of people when they do have them is you visit the I didn't do it for me on your children, right? And when you do have children, the times and the spaces are limited. I spent the weekend with my sister's baby, right? Like, we remember when my sister was a baby. For a second, pause, right?
First of all, hold on. Yeah, time out, okay? Because let me tell y'all something out here in the world, okay? Nobody can tell me that was not my baby, okay? 7th grade, 8th grade, going in the morning, getting in the cab. I was like, okay, pass me the baby. Now, y'all can get in the cab if y'all want to, but give me the baby, because that's mine, okay?
And now
so when I'm looking, I'm like, a whole baby.
Now the baby has a baby, right? And so I think that's the thing, like, for women, and I'll speak to this about women, we have those experiences of being taught even at 1 year old. Like, my niece is consumed at the thought of a baby, but you're a baby. So we are programmed at a very young age to want to have children, to want to be able to nurture and do this. And I think now at the age of 34, when I'm spending a weekend with my niece, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't got to get up this early. I don't got to make sure. When I want to take a nap, I take a nap. Like, I don't have to sit and weasel somebody else to take a nap when I want to take a nap. I just lay down and go to sleep. So that's the first thing. Enjoy your season. Enjoy all of who you are. Become whole. Work through your, like, go to therapy. Do all of what you got to do to make you full and true, because whatever you're not, you're going to visit that on your children. You don't want to do that. The second thing is, think about what you want to create for your children, the experiences and what you're desiring to want to have for your children, right? Because that's important. Because when you think about what you want to make for them, you begin to work now for later, right? So my mother was like one of the best mothers this world has ever given. And Monina can speak to this. My mother created space for kids. Like, she would take you to the movies. She was about experiences. She took us to the zoo, to the children's museum. She is the G-Maz of G-Maz, right? Like, she adopts children, and she's the baby whisperer, if you will. But what she did was she created experiences. And these experiences were from baby on up to adulthood, right? And I think about that. Like, as I think about the ability to want to be a great aunt, as I think about the ability to want to be a great mom, I think, what do I want to do for my children? And what does that look like? And what does that take, right? So if you want to take your kids on vacation for a week, that's going to take some money. So how are you building yourself? How are you building yourself financially now? Because being a parent, long story short, is about creating legacy. And nobody thinks about it like that. Right? Like, that's, you have to think that you decide, when you say that I want to be a parent, I want to create something that's happening next, you're creating legacy. Right. So how do you create legacy? Right? What you're not
creating is the first thing that people do create a bit of is you're trying to nurse your trauma. A lot of people have children because they want to nurse their traumas, their childhood traumas. But no, you're doing.
Well, you're trying to fix a relationship. Yeah, you're saying, oh, I don't want Jimmy to leave me, and if I just have this baby with Jimmy not gonna leave me. No, baby girl, Jimmy may still leave you, and now you got something that look like Jimmy, and you can't get rid of it. And you don't know if Jimmy gonna take care of that. So don't nurse your trauma. Don't try to deal with your trauma. Deal with you. Be completely whole, and then think, what is the legacy that I want to leave, that I want to create? And it doesn't mean that I can sit and say I want to have 2 or 3 children and I want each one of them to be able to have their own room. No, I don't have that now. But it does mean that every single day when I wake up now without children, that I need to work to be able to develop that, to be able to work towards that. And the last thing, last thing, work on forgiveness. Forgive yourself, because there are going to be the mistakes that you are going to know you did to your child, and they're going to be the things that you never knew, right? Like, so Monina just talked about how as a 3-year-old, she had an experience happen that people played a part in, right? So that lets us know that there are some things that happen to us that our parents had a part in, and they didn't know they had a part in. So as a parent, you need to be able to work through forgiveness. Like, there are sometimes I go to my mom and I'm like, you know, you did, and whatever. And my mom's got to be forgiving of herself. She didn't do it intentionally. She did what she knew was best. And so as a parent, you got to be able to work through forgiveness of yourself and of the fact that you're going to make mistakes, because there is no book that's going to tell you how to raise your child, because your child has been beautifully and fearfully made for you and you alone.
Yes, absolutely. And there's something about being the first child too. Oh, we be getting it like
guinea pigs.
Yeah, I was looking at my little sister like, Dad, now you know. Now you know. That's not what you be doing, okay?
I done told Renee a couple of times, excuse me, ma'am, because if it was me,
I don't know what you doing over here.
Like, wait about that, because that's what you was giving me.
The entire belt too. Get the buckle too, Ma. What you waiting on?
The good that snap, right? So,
right. I got the broomstick for you if you need that, because you know sometimes the belt don't be accurate. I got the stick.
Like, come on.
It just be different things in different ways that when you that first child, I'm sure there's so many first children that can really attest to that. When you are that first child, there's some traumas that you just, and I don't think it matters when your parents have you, if they have you earlier or later in life. It's just that first child thing. Like you said, no child comes with a manual, and we're all fearfully and wonderfully made, and that means we're all very unique. And what works for you is not going to work for your child. What works for your first child is not going to work for the second. And that first child usually is the guinea pig.
Yep.
They know.
Yes.
All right. So, the introvert corner.
Ooh.
So, I created the introvert corner because I'm a stark introvert, and there's just certain things about life that I'll probably never experience firsthand, but secondhand is still good enough for me. As an introvert, I have a good imagination, and I am also what they call an empath. So if you feel it and you express it to me, I feel it. I don't need to jump off the side of the building because you did. Okay? And what you did works for me. If you like it, I love it. I'm going to stay in this corner, though, pray for you, and ask you these questions because maybe you have a different insight on them than I do. Okay? So I want to learn. That's the big thing I want to learn. So here we go. Number 1, what beliefs were most important or impactful growing up for you?
2. The first was family and love above everything, right? Like, so my grandmother was staunch about the fact that we loved unconditionally and that we held family at the center. So like that was like really, really central and important to me. And then prayer. Prayer has been super significant to me in my journey and through taking off the layers of life. Like prayer has carried me. I've done the nasty boo-hoo tear crying. I've done the like scream at God, are you stupid? Like had the nasty conversation.
That is very Harlem. Are you dumb? Because
and I tell people, like, people are like, you really talk to God like that? Yes, there are some moments where I've got to give Jesus all of this Harlem. Like, you got to know all of this.
He can handle it.
Yes,
because he gonna get it. He good.
So he's gonna get a human on you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He gonna
So
sit me down. Better Jesus than anybody else. Actually, better Jesus than any other real, human, because they can't handle it. Jesus can handle it. He gonna sit me down and be like, listen, first of all, next time, watch your mouth. Second of all, let me tell you what happened. So it's fine. That's good
yes.
prayer. What beliefs were most important or impactful growing up? For me, I think the most impactful belief, for one, it was having a relationship with God. My father is a Muslim. My mother, she was Christian, but I wasn't raised going to mosque or church. Except for when I went with your family. That was my church home for those amount of years or so. So,
Yeah.
but having a one-on-one relationship, I have a different relationship with Christianity, I feel, than not a lot, but some people who have grown up in church. They don't have that one-on-one relationship. They have that ritualistic relationship that happens because going to church means being Christian for some people versus a relationship with Christ. So for me, it was having a one-on-one relationship with God. And then the other belief was I had to understand. My father was very big on making me understand like who you are and who you belong to. For him, which is something that is so unfortunate. I feel the pain of it, and I see how it affects our community, our Black people. But he's like, I know your tribe. You know the people that you come from. You know what they were centuries ago. They were warriors. You're from a nomadic tribe where we take care of the land. That's one of the closest things to what God had put us on here. That's true. So your people they know the land. They take care of the cattle. They do all of those things. So your people. Their heart as a tribe. Your worth because of that. So that's one of my biggest things, and that's something I will want to for sure pass down to my children. I want them to know, like, who you are. You never lose sight of that, and because you know who you are, because of your grandfather's people, you know who you are in God's eyes. God put them there. They all just stayed on that path. They don't really move into the city. They don't do nothing. They're still nomads. Like my father's family is still nomads. They live in tents. They live in, what I'm saying? Like, for real. So that's a belief. That's an important one growing up. Like, knowing who you are and having a relationship with God, for sure. All right, number 2. All right, I'm going to switch it. Number 2, I'm going to put, how do you remain authentic in your goals?
I tell the people who are closest to me, who are going to call me out on not completing them, what my goals are. I think I have some of the dopest sister friends that I think anybody can have. And recently I have really had people in this like latter 3 years who have really blossomed, and they pushed me. I'll text them and I'll be like, I gotta do this, and I have to finish a paper, and they like, yo, did you get that done? Did you put that in there? So I think having a team, I'm really coming to the realization that when God said Adam could not be alone, none of us could be alone. Community is important. And to make sure that I'm aspiring and keeping and holding on to my goals, it's my team. It ain't even me. It's my team.
For sure. None of us can be alone, because you see what happened when Eve got a little 10 minutes to herself. You know what I'm saying?
Like, thanks, Adam, because you have not said something.
Pie and stuff now. Like, really?
Shoot a snake away.
Right?
Shoot a snake away.
10 minutes to herself. Ain't even acting right. So, yes. Remain authentic in your goals. And my goals, I feel like at this point in my life, I remain authentic in my goals by not caring so much.
Yes.
I think I stay because it's just literally between me and God for the most part. I'm big on vision boards. I'm big on affirmation boards as well. And when he tells it to me, I write it down. I put it up. I make it plain. Make it so I can see it. And that's how I remain authentic, because I am an absorber. So if too many people with too many ideas, I'm going to end up throwing it away because I don't know how to finagle it now. Now I got all this going. What am I? So if I incorporate it, So yeah, that my most, how I remain authentic in my goals is like just keep them simple, keep them plain, and keep them to myself. Right. So I switched it up. This would have been the second one, but I made it the last one because it's going to be the hardest to answer.
Okay. I'm ready for the challenge.
What would it take for 2021 to be the best year of your life? Girl, I told you it's hard.
What would it take for 2021 to be the best year of my life? Woof. I would need for Oprah to say, you get a house, you get a car, you get a house for your mama, she get a car. No, that's for real though. Like, I would need, it don't even have to be Oprah, it could be Bill Gates, it could be whoever, to give me the dream beauty home that I've been desiring and wanting, with nice grounds. And I would say, to be able, to have the home, to be able to sit and have someone give me a large, substantial, multi-year donation to my job. So, like, I don't have to fundraise, because Lord knows I hate fundraising. And then the last piece would be to be able to take some kids on a trip someplace. To take at least 5 kids on a trip internationally someplace. If I could have those 3 things, I'd be sitting pretty and fine. I'd be like, dust it off. Like,
right. You know what's so funny? This question was, what would it take for this year to be the best year of your life? I was like,
just to get to my birthday.
This question is stupid, okay? Stupid, okay? They don't know nothing about COVID. They don't know nothing about quarantine. Go outside. That's what it be. That's what it takes. Go outside.
For 2020 to be good, I just want to make it to my birthday.
Right. And have a good one. Have a good day. That's what. Yes. But what would it take for 2021 to be the best year of my life? My whole life, though. Like that's why this question, I feel like it's so hard. Like, I don't know about the whole life, but my life so far. I mean, since we naming stuff, $1 million, I'll be a millionaire. That's part of my goals anyway. $1 million made. $1 million made from my business, from my Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger movement. A whole entire husband, child. Living situation is spectacular. That would make it the best year of my life. And my dad gets to do something that he really wants to do. So maybe ownership for my dad. Ownership of a business. That would make it the perfect year. The best year. Yeah. I mean, since we naming things. You know what I'm saying? We're naming things. I'm not asking for much. But since we naming things. Right. Fine, man. So might as well. So, man, I want to thank you for coming on my podcast. I just wanted us to talk on, I just want this podcast to be something where people could come to and hear all different kinds of conversations from all different walks and lifestyles, and just get some little tidbits of information and just be inspired. I want the best for myself. And though I'm not the most emotionally expressive person, I want the best for everybody. I love people. Stranger danger, but I love people. I want the best for them. Hi, from over there. But I want the best for you, though. Yeah. That's what this is all about. And I feel like this podcast has added to that for sure. I'm going to make sure that your information, especially your All Cipher page, is put in the info box below and everything of my YouTube. And I just found a way to put this on iTunes and different things like that, so our audio will be on there. So I'll just make sure I'll put the information where it needs to be so people can come and follow you and get some really good, really good messages from you.
I appreciate that.
And yeah, man. And is there anything that you are working on besides all Cypher and your art area director position? Anything in the works for you?
I got something I'm trying to make sure I get completed by the end of December, by my birthday. I don't want to give it up too soon.
I feel like it's a book.
I can't.
It might be.
It might be. But I will say,
it's not okay.
Yeah, no. It might be. It might be. I'll come back and I'll let you know. But there's some stuff that God is put inside of me, and I want to make sure that I'm sharing it out. I realize as much as I have a heart for youth, I have a heart for just women in general. And so I want to make sure that I'm giving all of what God has given me, because it's a lot of wisdom in here. So we're going to see prayerfully December 30th. It's going to all be out.
Got it. No prayerfully. No fingers crossed needed. But,
yeah,
I feel you on that. I feel you, because the world.
And being human.
Right. For real. For real. There are things that I want to work on, and I will be working on. Definitely this year, I had planned in December to do a vision board seminar. I had done one a couple years back, but obviously COVID, I don't know about that. People can get in all in one space. But maybe there's something that we could do virtually, and I would love for you to be able to come on as maybe a speaker in it, a webinar or something like that. I'll try to figure out how to make it happen. And that's something I would love for you to be a part of, for sure.
Of course.
Awesome. All right, girl. Well, I'm not going to hold you too much longer. I'm going to let you go ahead on. I thank you. I really, really appreciate you coming on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right.